Hi everybody, this is Chris Schmidt with another Greyscalegorilla tutorial, and this is going to be another one of those multi-part tutorials where I do part and Nick does part. Some people have been asking about that image of the bedroom set with the texture kit and how that was modeled. Well, that was actually a stock model that we didn't make, so we thought we'd go and make one for real and show you guys how we made it. So we spent a little bit of time talking about what we wanted to see, and we need something to vaguely reference, and Nick pulled up this website, and this one seems pretty good. So we're going to pretty much just roughly try and make this little setup here. And I'm going to focus entirely on the modeling and maybe just the most basic of texture layouts, and Nick is going to do the proper texturing and all of the lighting and rendering. So, and another interesting thing hopefully, about this tutorial is I did not practice any of this. So the idea here is that we're going to model this as fast as possible, hopefully in under an hour, to get all this set up. It won't be the most highly detailed, but it should look pretty good, especially when it's all textured up and lit. I didn't practice. You're going to see literally the way I would put this together if I had about an hour to make it. I was under a deadline, and these are all just the techniques I'm going to do as we go. We're not going to model this little lamp because we didn't like it too much, and it would be the most complicated thing to model. And some of these knickknacks we probably won't worry about. So it's just more about actually we'll model the room, the dresser, probably the plant, the bed, the lamp, and this dresser, and the shelf, and maybe the picture up there. Without further ado, why don't we get going? Let's see. The centerpiece of let's see. The bed is going to be one of the most complicated parts, so why don't we save that for last? So why don't we start out with this big piece over here? So that is these dressers here, and there's not much to work from here. We just got this image. Now, once again, this is really fast. If we were taking our time, we would be spending the time to get measurements from all this, and we could be taking screenshots and measuring things exactly, but we're just going to eyeball it. Another limitation I have is usually I would have two screens, and this would be on another screen, so I could be constantly referencing it. But so you guys can see what I'm doing at a given point. It's just going to be here in this main screen. So why don't we just go ahead and get going? Okay, so here we are in Cinema, and we're going to make this cabinet really quick, this dresser. So first thing I'm going to do is make it approximately the correct scale. It just has to be kind of in ratio to itself because we're going to scale all the different elements together at the end. Okay, so we need the proper number of subdivisions. There's 6 drawers, so there they are. Now I can make it editable and go to polygon mode and hit the letter C, make it editable, and I can grab the front of these, hit the letter I, and I'm going to drag in a little bit to get these, kind of get the lip of the edge of these drawers. And now we can... I'm actually going to split this front off, so I'm going to hit UP and then delete, and now what we have is the front and then the actual cabinet itself. So now we've got the front, I can select all these and hit I, and I'm going to drag in a little bit again, but this time I'm going to turn off preserve groups, and now you see we get that little crack in there. So now what I can do is invert my selection and hit delete, and now we've kind of got these little cracks in between. Now I can hit the letters, select all, Command A, hit the letter D for extrude, and I'm going to create. Actually, we'll leave that out for a second. I'm going to drag these back so there's a little bit of thickness of the drawers. In fact, we go all the way back to the back of the drawers. But you see, if we have when we turn on create caps, it'll seal it back up again. Otherwise, it just extrudes it back. But I'm going to have my caps turned on, and there we go. I don't know how far back it should go, so I'll just drag it until there. You see, it went too far, so now I can pull back. So now we've got these individual cabinets here and the edge. So that's working pretty well. I can hit render, and you see that we've already got our basic shape right there, working very nicely. Let's see, what are some other details we got here? Well, we got these little... I can't even tell how these handles work. Is there a better... Okay, there's just these tiny little handles, so that's not too bad. So we're not really worried about the functionality of this thing. So let's just model this handle really quick. I assume it's just this really generic shape. So what we're going to do is make this cube editable, and I'm going to scale it out. And I'm going to actually do a UL loop select and then UI, and that grabs this edge and that edge. Hit the letter D, and I'm going to extrude this out a bit, and now we can rotate over to this side. And, oops, sorry, I misclicked. And I can grab this polygon, hit the letter D, extrude that, and there we go, there's our basic handle. And I think there's a little bit of a curve to it, so we'll just go to polygon mode, and I'll grab these and these. Carefully hit the letter T for scale these in a little bit to give us just that little bit of curvature. And there we go. Now we got our basic handle. Now obviously it's way too big, but I can hit the letter T and scale it down. I'm going to call it handle. It's still way too big, but let's see it in place. So I'm going to actually make a cloner. Drop it in the cloner, and now the cloner is going to be set to grid mode, and we need 2 high and 3 across, which is, there we go, what we need. Oop, I guess it's actually 3 tall and 2 across, my bad. And now we can actually just drag this a little bit and get these placed where they're supposed to be. Ridiculously huge, but now we can just scale, 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 scale. Those handles were really tiny. In fact, I think we can even scale these a little wider. And there we go. Now we got nice tiny handles. I can grab this cloner and drag it around until we get it exactly where it's supposed to be. So I can place these middle ones right where they should be, and I can just scale the top and the bottom. The top and the bottom should automatically pretty much end up where they belong. Sort of. There we go. Let's see. Does that look centered? Looks pretty centered to me. We can always tweak it later. And it's buried a little in the cabinet, so we can pull it away so we get the handle back again. There we go. Now we got some handles, so there we go. Let's see. What's next? We need these legs really quick. It looks like just some really straightforward kind of metal. So we can get 4 legs super quickly by just making a cube. And I'm going to take this cloner because it's already got a couple stats we want. Drop it in here. We got the cloner. What do we want? We want 2 by 2. Actually, we want this 2 and this to be 1. And now I'm going to hit my 0 PSR button right there. I always keep it in my interface. We can scale this cube way down so we can start getting those feet. And it's zeroed out, so it should be centered on this cabinet. And I can move these around until I got pretty much the right size. Let's see how thick those are. Let's see, they actually don't go all the way to the edge, so we'll pull it back in a little bit and pull that in a little bit. We pull this down. There we go. Now we start getting the feet. They might be a little big. Let's just make it even 12. 12 does for me. Your numbers will be completely different. And I'm going to make these legs a little taller because obviously these are a little taller. And I can pull this, grab the cloner and pull that whole cloner down a little bit. And you see there's that little black bottom on the leg. So I'm actually going to make that too, because why not? We'll make it really thin. And this is a child of the other cube, so I can pull it down just a little bit and maybe make it like 11.5. I'm going to copy and paste that because it's faster than typing it. And then just to differentiate, I'm going to make a texture real quick, and that'll be black, and I'll drop that on the little foot there. All right, cool. So there's those feet, and now all we need is this brace bar, which probably goes all the way around. Hard to tell at this angle, but the fastest way to make that would be to make a rectangle spline, and we'll make a sweep, and we need the rectangle spline and another rectangle spline, so I'll just copy that one. This top one has to be scaled way down, so we kind of start getting this little rectangle shape there. I'm going to change the orientation to be sideways, and I can just pull this right down to about there. Let's see, I can actually scale this up until it's about where I need it to be, and now I can tweak the individual settings. So I can pull this down. This top rectangle is a little thick still, so I can pull that down a little bit. Once again, this is all centered, which is why it's really easy for me to make these tweaks, and I don't always constantly have to adjust it. So there we go, that goes in like that. We pull this one in a little bit like that. And there we go, that looks good to me. Now let's see, that's the secondary color of this thing, so we'll just make it a, I'm just going to make that a light gray. So that'll be that, and that also goes on the feet here. So there we go, we got those. And now, and then we'll just make the primary color for the dresser. Nick will be replacing all these, but the primary color for the dresser will be this. And I'm not sure what kind of material he's going to be putting on here. So we're just going to go ahead and apply these, and we need to see the way the mapping is going to work a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and make a gradient. I'm going to change the gradient to box because it's kind of a nice quick way. Invert the knots, and there we go. This is going to kind of give us a good idea of how the materials are applying. So you can see that these materials would actually apply pretty well because of the way we just happen to have modeled this. Works out very nicely. So that's fine. I'm just going to actually drag down this mix strength so it goes back to white, but we'll turn that back on later. Let's see. I think I might want to pull these feet down just a hair because they're sticking up through the cabinet. Cool. All right, so what do we got there? We got cabinet. So we're going to make a null object. The null object is right at the ground, so I'm actually going to select everything except the null, and I'm going to go to side view, and I'm going to pull this sucker up until it looks like it's sitting right there on the X line, right on the ground. And now we can drop that all in the null, and I can name this dresser. Boom, dresser done. Now we're going to suppose save this, and I should have made a folder for this already, but let's just go in here and we'll go into tutorials and we'll make a new tutorial folder and we'll name it bedroom, and I will name this another folder we'll call it parts, and we'll name this dresser. All right, cool. So that is our dresser. I have no idea how much time has elapsed and no good way of checking it. So let's just move on. We're going to go back to the internet and we're going to go back and we're going to look at the next piece of furniture we need to make, and that is this one. If it ever wants to load. There we go. So you can see that there's a lot of similar design elements in this one to what we just made. So why don't we just modify this one? So I'm going to take this, copy it, open the file, paste it, and let's go ahead and make the new one. In fact, just to keep the scale similar, I'll paste it twice, and then we'll keep the real one, or the old one, back here, and now we can modify this one to become the new one. So our basic box size shouldn't matter too much. So why don't we just make that again from scratch. I'm not sure how deep we want it to be, but we don't need that anymore. We don't need this anymore. So here's our new box. And that's wider than it is tall. Obviously, it's got to be significantly shorter. And we can always go back to our base bedroom. In fact, I should open a new tab. So we can go back here and you see that this goes up to about the second height of that shelf. Because the depth is going to matter a little bit, why don't we model that to about that size? There we go. So that gives us about the proper height. And now we got this tab open so we can see the approximate width. We're just making up. And let's see, we got one height segment. So we're going to go ahead and make that editable. And let's see, we're going to pass right through this thing. And we don't need the dresser anymore now because we can see that we're at the right scale. So let's see, we need a hole right through this thing. And we've got the drawer. Now, these are exactly the same size. So what we could do is grab these two and these two. Oop, make sure I don't grab that handle. Got both of those, hit the letter I for inner extrude, turn off preserve groups, and now we can just pull this in. And now these two are going to be treated differently. I'm going to just grab this top one and this one, and we're going to use bridge, which I just think is the letter B. And now I can carefully drag from this point to approximately where I think the other one is going to be connected over there, and let go, and boom, we get the bridge. It goes right through. Excellent. And now we need the drawer just like we did the other one, so I can grab this polygon, hit UP, separate it out, hit the letter or hit delete to get rid of it. Now I can select the drawer right here. Maybe I'm going to hit letter I to scale it in a little bit, just like we did before. UI to invert, delete that. Got this one polygon now. I can hit the letter D and extrude that in, just like before. The depth doesn't really matter, but I'm going to try and create caps, and there we go. Now we've sealed it in again. Excellent. So that was all super fast. Now we can grab the handle, which is in the cloner. We actually don't need the cloner this time, so we can just yank that out. And I guess the handle should have had the silver color, so we'll add that. And the handle can be moved right there where it should be. All right, cool. Now we can move the legs, so we can grab this cloner, and we can just pull that in. So the legs are about where they belong. Let's see. Yeah, they're in a little bit. And then we can grab this, and we can just change this one property on the rectangle and pull that in. And now that looks like it's pretty much spot on. The rectangle will be pulled up maybe a hair. And there we go. Now we got our nightstand. So we can drop the white on there and drop the white on here. And those should be all the proper colors. So let's go ahead and make another null object. But fortunately, this one's already on the ground. So we can select all, deselect the null object, drop it in here. And now it's pivoting from the 0 point. So I like that. We'll call that nightstand. We'll name it nightstand. And that's just in case we crash, would be the worst. So we're going to make sure we keep those saved. Close that, and let's see what's next. Well, why don't we make this lamp? Super simple. Now, keep in mind, we're not modeling anything we don't have to. So we're going to ignore a lot of different parts here. I'm going to create a circle, and I'm going to create a extrude. Drop the circle in the extrude. The circle's the wrong direction, so we're going to lay it on the ground, XZ. And now we can move the extrude up to about the base of this table because it's going to be on the table, so I'm just getting it to scale. The circle is way too big, so we can scale that down. We can scale the whole thing later, so that's good enough. I don't want it extruding sideways, I want it extruding up. Obviously that's too big, so we can go to the circle and scale it down. Look at our photo reference. Okay, not too bad. So there is the base of the lamp. I think maybe a little thinner still. And now what we're going to do is maybe copy and paste that lamp again, or the base of it, and now we can make that base a little thicker, and now we can make the extrude only a little bit, like 5 maybe. So now we get that little detail on the bottom. That's tapered in a little bit, but I'm so not going to worry about that. And now we can copy and paste this again and move it up to the top, and that top seems a lot thinner, so we'll only make that, say, 2. And this is my scale, not necessarily yours. And we can grab both these. We could go to the caps and say fillet cap, and now make this really tiny. Maybe 1, even 1 might be too big, but that's fine. That'll give us that little rounding. It's really nice for catching highlights. So there's the base of the lamp, and now we have that little pole going up, so we can copy and paste this part again. We move up here, and now of course we're going to scale this circle way, 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 way down, and it's probably extruding up too high, so I'm going to pull that back a little. And then let's see, this lampshade, it does have those little rings, so why don't we make it out of some rings? So the circle is already doing kind of what we want, so we'll copy the circle and we'll scale it way up, way up, way up, and that's the bottom of the lampshade. And we will make a loft nurb, and we'll drop this in, and we'll drop another one in, and we'll drag this, and we'll drag it up, and then we'll scale that in. Now that's giving us our lampshade really quickly. And the reason we did it this way instead of what I was going to do with a cone shape, well, first of all, we can go to caps and turn these caps off. We got a whole bunch of unnecessary height segments. We're going fast, so I wouldn't worry too much about that kind of thing, but we can turn those off. In fact, we can turn that off too. But let's see. This is obviously supposed to be a little thinner. And we'll scale that one in a little bit as well. But now we got these 2 different rings, and we can actually copy and paste those rings, and now we can put those into a sweep nurb individually. Put one into a sweep nurb and make a little copy of that circle, so it's going to ring around it, and I can scale it way down. And this circle was the wrong orientation, so I can put back to regular orientation. There you go. Now you can see the ring we're putting up there. I can scale this way, 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 way down. And now I can copy and paste that entire sweep, delete that circle out, and drop in our other circle, and that'll give us a circle on the bottom. So if we're, if we were putting more time into this and making proper like instances of everything, it'll be taking a lot longer. Let's see. We can't see inside that lamp, and I don't think Nick's going to render from the angle, so we are so not even going to worry about that. So boom, lamp, done. So I'm going to make a null object, and actually the best way to do this would be grab this base, because it's already kind of zeroed out, hit Alt-G, and that makes that null object, and now I can grab everything except for this, and I guess we shouldn't have this. Okay, this can be copied into this one file. I'm going to copy, delete, save, new file, paste, save. Actually, we don't save it yet. We got to put these in a null. Now I can select everything except the null, and now I can grab all these bad boys, drop it in the null, and now these are all in the zeroed out null. Call that lamp, and now we can save and call it lamp. Boom, lamp done. What is next? Goodbye, lamp. Quickly running out of these objects, which is good, I guess. I'm saving the bed for last because it's going to be the worst. Ooh, picture frame. We'll do that. Super simple. This obviously couldn't be much more simple. We'll do it in the fastest way possible. Normally we might do it with some NURBS or something, but that's not necessary. Let's just make a plane. We'll have it face forward. We only need 1 segment, and let's see. So that's this will be the picture itself, and now I can. Let's see. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to make it editable. And I'm going to select all the edges, hit layer D, and I'm going to extrude outward. So this will be the matte. And now I can maybe delete this middle polygon because I don't need it. Select all these, hit layer D for extrude. Now we can pull the matte out a little bit. We can create caps if we want the back to be in there. And now, so that's kind of this matte finish area. And now we need the picture frame on the sides. And we can do that by maybe grabbing this edge, and I'm going to hit UP, which will make a copy of that. But we don't delete it this time because we want that one to remain. But now we can grab all that one that we copied, hit the letter D, letter T, and we can scale this to make it thicker. And now we hit the letter D for extrude. And I'm going to increase if I just drag right now, you see they're disconnect. But if I increase my angle to 91 degrees, those will remain connected. And then we want to make sure create caps is on, so the cap is still in there, and boom, picture frame. We can rescale any of this if we want to. I think the picture should be a little smaller, and this inner part should be a little smaller, so I can select UL and grab the ring. If I can do it. There we go. And I can hit T for scale. I'm actually going to grab this one right here and not grab nowhere, but I'm going to grab on this blue one so that they scale down evenly. And there we go. And I'm going to make a null. And once again, I want it to pivot from the null. So I'm going to grab everything, go to object mode, go to the front, pull this up. We're just approximating. I'll drop that in a null. And we'll call this frame. And we'll save it as frame. All right, picture frame, done. What is next? Next. Well, there is the rug, and we got the shelf. The shelf couldn't be easier. We won't worry about that. Okay, we're going to make the plant, and then the bed, and then the room. So, the plant. The plant should be fun. I like making plants. So, let's see. How are we going to make the plant? Well, let's see. It's the pot. It's hard to tell, and I don't think they listed it out here, but I do like it, so we're just going to make up what we can't tell it is, and I'm going to make a, let's say this little rectangle, I'm going to lay it flat, and I'm going to make a loft nerd, drop this in the loft nerd, and I want this rounded, so the rounded is fine, drop another one in, I'm going to pick this up, and we'll increase this to say 600, that gives us the pot shape, and you know, it would be cool if we had a little bit curve to that, so I'm going to pull this down, and maybe make it 500, so pull it down a little more. There we go. Now we get a little curve in there. I like that a little more. And if we want to go fancier, we always grab this and maybe scale down, pull it down a little, make a copy of it, pull it down a little bit more. And we make a copy of that and scale that down. There we go. So there's a far more detailed pot than we even need it to be. In fact, I'll make another copy of this. We'll scale that in a little bit, make another copy of it. Now we can pull that down. And there we go. Now we got a little bit of inside of the pot. So there we go. There's the pot for the plant. And what do we want? Well, we need to grow the plant itself. So we're going to do a really cool technique that I did I've done a bunch of times. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys, so it should be fun. I'm going to go and make a plane and subdivide it about this, and let's make sure. Let's go. Actually, it doesn't have to go all the way, but yeah, let's not go all the way. But we do want it to be square, so I'm going to fill it almost all the way in. We're going to make this editable, and I'm going to grab this center point, and I'm going to pull it up, and now we're going to make a hypernerve, and we're going to drop this in the hypernerve. So now we get this nice kind of smooth shape like that. So that is what we want to start out with. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to make that editable, and now we can take this plane out, and this is essentially our dirt. But what we're going to do now is make sure all the polygons are selected, and we are going to go to, well, let's model a leaf first. So a leaf. We're gonna use a hypernerve that we never ever use, and that's the Bezier nerve. I think it's Bezier nerve. And we're gonna take that and we're gonna move this sucker up in the air, and we are gonna model us a leaf. So let's see. We're gonna give ourselves a couple more segments here. And here's the way this tool works. If you've never used it, which there's a good chance you haven't, I grab all these top polygons. I'm gonna scale them down to 0 by typing in 0. So there we go. That's the top of our leaf, and now we can maybe grab this next row and the row after that. And we're going to pull these up a little bit. So that's the fat part of the leaf. And then we're going to grab these next ones. I'm going to hit the letter T for scale, and we'll just scale these in. So there's kind of a thinner part of the leaf. Now we could kind of scale this in and out until like the leaf is about the size we want. But this is looking pretty good to me. In fact, we can grab this bottom part and pull it up a little so it pinches a little more. There we go. There is our basic leaf. And I am not going to stress out too much more about it. Actually, why don't we make a quick middle line? I scaled the top to 0, unfortunately, so it's going to... let's not worry about it. It's really quick. Okay, so there is our basic leaf. We might want to change the shape of it, so I'm going to make a copy and paste of it and then hide one of them or just turn it off because we don't have to hide it. We're going to have to make this editable. Actually, it's too many polygons, so before we make it editable, let's decrease the segments to whatever's the smallest number that still looks good. 8 looks good, and here I think all we need is... Let's do 5. So 5 and 8 looks pretty good for the leaf. Now, here's the cool part. We're going to go and grab the dirt, the plane that is going to be the dirt, and we're going to go to Simulation, Hair Objects, Add Hair. Boom, we got a nice fuzzy hair thing. But we got to do a lot more. We have to make the length a lot longer. Boom, longer. And we'll see, we're intersecting this pot a little bit, so we got to make a couple changes. We're going to delete the hair, and this gets a little bit too steep. So we're going to select all these polygons, and we're going to scale this thing down by half, which is 50 for me. So I just kind of did the math in my head and cut that in half. So now the curvature shouldn't be so strong. The reason we did this modeling trick is so that we get this nice curve to it. So we're going to go back to Simulation, Add Hair, and we're going to add more hair again, and I can scale up. Now you see that we kind of get this really nice distribution. And here's the best part. When we hit play, you see those are all going to fall really nice off to the side. Now, the hair's a little bit too... it's curving too much. The only way to fix that is to go to Dynamics, go to the Advanced tab, turn on Custom under Advanced, and set this down to a lower number. I'm going to set it to 3 because I'm pretty sure that'll be good. Maybe 4. That falls off to the side, and you see how it tapers really nice. So now what? Well, now we go to Generate. And under Generate, we turn off Render Hairs, and then we turn on Instance. And we're going to make an instance of that Bezier NURB. So we're actually going to make that editable. And now we can go back into the hair and drag this. It has to be made editable. It won't work if it's parametric still. And we drop it in here. And what is happening now is, well, first of all, we have way too many hair. So we're going to go to the hair tab, and we're going to drop this down to, say, 100. So we've got 100, and now it's actually generating geometry, but we can't tell very well. I'm going to delete that extra hair. We can't tell very well because our thickness is way too low. So watch this. As I go to my thickness, and I set this up to, say, 10, is that enough? No, not nearly enough. Let's go 55, 55. There we go. Now it's starting to get thicker. Now you start seeing that we have leaves all over the place. Let's go 100. 100. See, now we're actually getting some leaves in there. So that's starting to look pretty cool. So if we hit play, you see these will all kind of fall out. And it kind of looks like it's rotated 90 degrees from where I want it to be. I didn't think it would do that. Shouldn't it... thought it would orient the direction I wanted it to. Alignment, free, local. I guess it depends on what angle we're looking at. Oh, there we go. Look Y. Look Y seems to have rotated them all outward, which is what I wanted. And let's see, the dynamics are still, I kind of want some more curve, so let's set it to 6. Well, that's for me. And I can hit play, and now you can see these should all bend out even more. So we get a nice kind of... Well, actually, that's too much now. But anyway, we can go and we can play with that in a second. But another thing we want to do is go back into the hair, and we can go to the thickness, and we have some variation here. So we can set a variation for me of, say, 25. No, let's say 55. And we're going to start getting more or less variation. Yeah, I guess we can go all the way to 100. More or less variation. So these are thicker or smaller. So that's kind of cool. And then I can go to scale, and this one's really important, is right now scale is 100, but I can set the variation up, and I can set the variation up pretty high. So now these leaves are of drastically varying heights. In fact, maybe the base scale should be smaller, like 75%, and now the variation is going to enable it to not go out too high. And now you see we get all these nice different size leaves. So there we go. Really easy. And we hit play, and now all those bend out a little bit. Now if I were to hit render, you see we have, pull out a little bit. And you see we get all of these leaves. Not too bad. So we could make the hair editable right now if we want to. Oh, what other cool things. If you go into hairs, we can actually drag up and down the number of these. So you can have more or less leaves if you want. So that's pretty cool. I think a little bit of thickness on these leaves would have been good, but let's not worry about that. We also, it's cool because you can add things like frizz. You can add frizz, and the frizz actually carries over to the plant. And generically, that looks pretty good. I'm going to keep the frizz. And if we really like the way that looks, I can go and make this, I can make the hair editable, and now it's just a piece of geometry. So there we go. Now we've got our finished leaves. So we got all these other bits that we don't need. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I can go and make a null and grab everything but the null. Let's make sure that we're in object mode. I'm going to drag it up so it's sitting right on X, which it almost was. Drop this in here, and we call it plant. Let's try that again. Plant. We can delete the texture tag off the hair because it's no good. I'm going to do another quick save, and we'll save this as plant. And there we go. Now we have a fancy plant. I like it. Save one more time. Okay, what do we got left? Not much. We've got like the bed and the bed. Of course, the bed is going to take a little while, so let's go ahead and do it. The bed's not, well, the bed's pretty straightforward, but of course there's going to be a lot of other elements. So we're going to open up a new file, and just to get the generic bed shape, I think a cube is kind of the best way to go. Of course, we could get the real dimensions, but we're going fast, fast, fast. So we're not going to. So let's see. Does that look about right for a bed? I'm totally eyeballing. Maybe a little wider. It must be a queen or king size bed. All right, nice. I'm gonna do a fillet, and we'll get the rounding. Let's see how much rounding we're supposed to have. Some, but not a ton. In fact, why don't we do it with a hypernerd? So I'm gonna add a couple of segments here, and now if I can make a hypernerd, and I can drop this in the hypernerd, and that should curve out the bed really nice. Boom! That looks like a very nice mattress. I love it. Let's see. These legs are incredibly similar to the dresser. So why don't we go over to the dresser and steal them away? So we're going to grab the ring and the feet, copy, new, close current file, paste. Fastest way to do it. Like I said, we're going fast. So any place I lose, you just go back and watch it again in the tutorial. So let's see. Obviously, this bed is a little too big compared to the scale of the other one, so we can actually just move this up. And then I'm going to make a null object. The null object will go from where I want to pivot. Now I can drop the bed in the null, and I can hit T and scale on the null, and now it's scaling in the proper place. And let's see where the bed is actually pivoting from. Right on the edges. So that should actually go down until we're actually a little inside. There we go. So now we can grab these. Actually, we'll grab the ring first, which is this one. Go to object mode, and I should be able to... I don't see it, so we'll just drag out like this. There we go. That's kind of our box. And now we can grab our cloner. I can drag out these two, and we can go right to the corners. And there's probably supposed to be something to fill in the base, so I'm just going to make another cube. And we'll make the cube really big. And we'll make the cube really big. And then we'll make it really skinny. And then that'll sit in here. That'll just catch all the extra stuff. And we should probably have this mattress sink inside a little bit more, because it would be, gravity would kind of weigh it in. So there we go with that. And now let's look. It'd be good to have some additional angles of this thing. I think this is an alternative render of it, so you can see where the headboard is. And I don't even know how that's connecting. It's almost like it's floating. So that's a really straightforward headboard, even more simple than I thought it'd be. So heck, let's just make a cube. And we'll drag this over, and we'll make ourselves a really, really boring headboard. Of course, this isn't the hard part of the bed. You guys already know what the hard part of making the bed is going to be. And that's a giant question mark right now as to how we're going to do that. All right, so there's headboard. I guess headboard goes out as far as the legs. Boom, headboard. Done. All right, so let's see. Let's go back to our original picture, and this is kind of the blanket situation we're going for, and these pillows. So I guess the pillows come first. Let's see if there's images of the pillow. Oh, that's kind of all right. All right, let's not go psycho on these pillows. Our deadline is probably approaching. So let's make a pillow really quick. So, okay, there's our base shape for a pillow, maybe a little skinnier. I'm going to add, let's say, a segment here and a segment there. Maybe 2 segments there. Yeah, I like it. Okay, I'm going to make the editable. And now, really quick, we are going to go to point mode, selection mode. I'm going to turn off visible elements, and I'm going to grab these points and these points. Of course, I went through the object and grabbed the ones behind. I get the letter T for scale, and we're going to scale up, and we're getting some thickness in the pillow. Scale up. There we go. Poofy pillow. And now I'm going to go to maybe edge mode here, and I'm going to hit UB for ring selection. I'm going to grab these 2 rings, hit MF for edge cut. If you don't know how to use edge cut, look into it. It's awesome. I love edge cut. I'm going to turn off N-gons, hit apply, and it's going to put slices right through all the edges I selected. That's great. Now I'm going to hit UL for loop selection. I'm going to grab these 2 loops, hit the T for scale. I'm going to pull these out. And I see that kind of gives us that basic shape. And I'm going to hit UB for these edges and these edges. Actually, I don't think we need to do that. Let's just go UL for ring selection. Grab these 2, hit T, and I can scale these out. And now you see we're kind of getting our nice fluffy base pillow. So now we should be able to take this and throw that into a hypernerd, and that should give us kind of our basic fluffy pillow. Now it's got all those, like the real ones have all those extra little flaps and whatnot on the side. That might take a little long to do for how quick this is supposed to be going, and it's a relatively small detail, so we won't necessarily worry about that right now. And let's see how quickly we could. Let's see if we can place this on the bed. I'm going to copy this, and we're going to go into the bed file, which isn't saved yet. And let's see if we can just place these so they look kind of good enough. So, reference image real quick. Okay, the two pillows kind of go all the way across the bed, so we'll go ahead and that's scaled so it's about half the bed length. Tilt it way up. We'll pull that over. And now what? There's a couple different things. I guess we'll do that with a blanket, so we won't worry about it here. But what I do want to do is maybe take an FFD. I'm going to make it a child of not the cube, but the hypernerb. That way it'll be modifying the hypernerb. I'm going to hit my reset PSR so that it zeroes that out. And let's get our base shape to about this. Now what's cool is we're actually deforming the hypernerb and not the cube here. So that means we have the extra geometry to deform. So now we could do some... okay, so that's one side of the pillow. Let me name it pillow. I can copy and paste the pillow. And we scoot this over here. But now we got these FFDs, and what's cool about that is I can go to these polygons and maybe go down here. I'm just going to grab, turn off this. Actually, I don't think you have to with FFD, but I'm going to grab all these bond parts, and I can say, like, pull it up a little bit so it gets the curve. I can even invert my selection. Pull this down a little bit, maybe rotate it a little bit. We could grab some of these, even just some random points. I can pull it so we're just kind of fluffying and lumping and changing it so the shape of the pillow isn't perfect. And that way our pillow is still its base shape. So there we go, that's not too bad. And I don't want to copy the deformed one, so I'm going to go back to this one, copy and paste it, and we'll maybe make this the second layer of pillows that lie on top of it. Maybe lay it a little flatter. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, these lay a little bit flatter, and of course now we got this one to go into these points, and we can, I don't know, maybe grab that middle point, make it a little fluffier, and then grab, we'll go to the side view, and I can grab all these points through. We can make it curve in, maybe grab these front ones again and pull it out so it's fluffy but curves in. I can invert my selection and maybe scale these all in a little bit, maybe even move them a little bit. There we go. Just a little little irregularities on it. Move this whole pillow over a bit. We could also put displacers in there to get some random lumpiness. I'm not going to worry about that right now. In fact, these pillows are taking up too much time. So I'm going to copy this pillow, and I'm going to move it over here. And just to save some time, well, I was going to mirror it, but that's no good. But maybe I can take the FFD. And no, that's not rotated right either. Oh, these don't. Oh, I'm on global. I can go to the FFD and spin this around, so it's kind of the opposite. Now I can just grab a couple of random points. In addition, I've kind of already got the modifications I did there. I can just do a couple extra ones. Grab this pillow and pull it up a little. There you go. Those look like they're interacting a little bit extra. Let's see, all these could probably be centered a little better. Grab all these, pull them over a little bit. Let's see how we're looking there. Let's see. Pull this one a little bit so they're not quite touching. There we go. I like that. Really simple, really straightforward. Let's see. In this window, I actually saw this headboard was a little more detailed. Oh, actually, no, this entire setup is a little different. It's got a different frame and everything, so we won't worry too much about that. In fact, we'll close that, and let's go back to our original one. It's got that little throw pillow, so why don't we go ahead and do that. Let's just take this deformed pillow, and we'll take it, and we'll scale it down a little. And we'll move it over. It's not too bad. Maybe we'll spin it around so it's fluffed differently. There we go. Not too bad. A little throw pillow right there. And we could spend forever tweaking those, but, you know, what do we got there? We got pillows, so good. These FFDs always annoy me, so we're going to do a quick search for FFD. There they all are right there. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to set the visibility and editor off, and they're still there. They're just not being shown, so there we go. All right, now what do we got to do? Well, we need to put a blanket on here. So we got a couple different blankets. I don't know how these work exactly. Does that fold over on itself? I don't know. But we're not going to worry about that bit too much. What we are going to do is just make a really quick blanket. And we're going to do it, I think, with cloth NURBS if it wants to cooperate. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit of overlap here so it can fall. And maybe we'll go up a little bit more. And let's see, what are the collider bodies we need? We need this, this, and that are going to be the collider bodies. I think. In fact, why don't we even just take the bed frame too? So I'm going to take all those collider bodies, and just because I don't want to take too much time doing this, we're going to take all these, copy them, open the new file, paste them, and now I can put these all into a connect object. Oh, I didn't grab the hyperNURBS on the pillows. But that's okay because I can just make one hyperNURBS, group these together, put them in the hyperNURBS, now they're hyperNURBed again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually make a connect object. I'm going to select everything, drop them all in the connect object, and I'm going to make the connect object editable. And now what we should have is a single mesh. And we don't need all these materials, although it doesn't really matter. We don't need these selection tags. But anyway, here's our collider body. And we're going to delete this. It's just temporarily here to drop the blanket on. So, in fact, why don't we do all the simulations in this other file? So first thing I'm going to do, it's a pillow file we don't need anymore. I'm going to go to the bed file. I'm going to save it because we're running simulations, and that's a good time to crash. Save the bed. Here's the temporary blanket. I'm going to new file, close the new file, and now we're on the newest one, which is the untitled one for dynamics. So here's the blanket we're about to drop. We should have these subdivisions pretty much even. So this could have more or less, depending on which direction we're going. But let's see what we can do here. I'm totally making this up. I have no idea how this is going to go, but I'm going to make a copy and paste of that plane because I don't know if I'm going to do this right. But let's go ahead and add... we'll do the cloth one. I haven't done cloth in a while, so I guess we're going to go under... Actually, that's cloth. I forget they work differently. So the bed is going to get a cloth collider. There we go. Now let's see what happens. I'm going to just hit play, and nothing's happening. That's right, because the blanket needs to be made editable. Now I can hit play, and that's going to fall right down the blanket. So that's pretty good. Let's go to our collider body and maybe crank up that friction so that it's not sliding off. And let's see, that kind of flaps around a little bit, but you see we get this really nice curvature on the edges of them. So that is cool. But a problem here is obviously this blanket's too long, and that would be hitting the floor, and the other one isn't. So that is why we made the copy of this plane, because this one is no good. So we can delete that, and we make this one, go back to the one that wasn't made editable, and now we can shrink that, and maybe just pull this up a little bit, because... Let's go to top view even so we can see that these are kind of even all the way around. And those corners bend a lot, so this looks like it's pretty good. Once again, I'm going to make a copy and paste of that plane, make it editable, and now we can add our simulation tag again. Cloth, hit play, let it fall. That's going to slide a little bit. We get a nice little curvature on the corners. I like it. I love it. Now we can just actually delete that tag, and boom, now we got our blanket. Okay, now we got the blanket, but there's no thickness to it, so that's not too much fun. But... of course, they gave us the good old cloth NURBS for that. So we can drop this right in the cloth NURBS. We don't even need this simulation tag anymore. So we got the cloth NURBS. We don't need subdivisions, but we do need is some thickness. We get that thickness, and then we could even take a hyperNURB and drop that into a hyperNURB, and that should kind of smooth out our corners again. So there we go. Now we got a little blanket there. And yeah, that's all good. So what do we need now? Maybe one more blanket draped across the top to seal that deal off. I wish that had been a little bit longer now, but that's okay. So we still have this blanket, so we can copy and paste that, pull it back on, maybe shrink this. And obviously that's not the way that blanket was made, but they'll start intersecting each other. So I'm not entirely sure what the best way of doing this would be in the fast method. I mean, I guess we could have this blanket here and make it a little longer. And then I'm totally making this up. I have no idea if it's going to work. We're going to take a bend, and we're going to put the bend in here. I'm going to zero it out so it jumps up with it, and now I'm going to twist it down here. So Y is pointing north on the blanket. Now we can do the strength, and I want a strength of 180, and I want the strength to be negative 90 degrees, so it's bending up. And obviously this bend deformer is too big, so I'm going to scale the entire bend deformer down, and you see it's going to kind of fold that in half. So there we go. Now maybe we'll get the fold. So I can right-click on this and say, And we also have to go to the bend and set Y length. So there we go. Now that'll bend correctly. Now we can scale that up again. So we get a little bit of curve to it. And now we can right click on the blanket and say current state to object, which will delete the bend deformer out of it. Well, now we have to delete that object. And now we got the object without the bend deformer, but still deformed. All right, cool. Now we can move this over to the top and maybe run the simulation on this. Now we can turn this new blanket into a collider body. In fact, we want to keep that, but be careful with it. So why don't we just drop down the original one? So it's just a collider body. Now we can right click on this one and go to cloth and maybe just hit play. It's not too bad, but of course the thickness isn't counting, so let's do this the right way. So I'm going to grab this this cloth nerve, I'm going to copy and paste it, make it editable, and now we got that subdivided cloth with a thickness, and now that's our collider body. So we'll delete that before the end, but now we can run the simulation on it. We should be landing on the more proper geometry of the blanket. That folds over on itself a little bit, but that's kind of what we want. Let's see, maybe we can take the cloth, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. I'm not sure if that'll work. At the time of 0, can you do that? See, it doesn't like you rotating it, so we actually have to delete the cloth tag, rotate this thing. I'm going to rotate it like that. Maybe we can get some wrinkles or something out of it. And I'm going to pull it down just a little bit. And now we can put the new cloth tag on it again, hit play, and now it should fall. And hopefully it doesn't yet. There, now you see it didn't land right on top of itself. And we can let that settle a little bit. There we go. That's not too bad. And I'm going to delete that tag off of it. And now we can actually just copy and paste this hypernerd and put our new blanket in it instead of the old one. That should give it some thickness. Looks like it's passing through itself pretty badly. I'm going to delete that collider body. It's passing through itself pretty badly, but can that be fixed by setting this negative? So by giving this some negative thickness, it actually passes the other direction, and now it's mostly working pretty well. You see we get a little intersection right there. None on the other side. So we can just fix this with modeling really quickly by, I'm going to go to my selection, the polygons of this, and I can grab that polygon, maybe grab. I'm growing my selection a little bit there. And now we can right click and use something like the brush tool. Use the brush tool, and I should be able to go to the side view here a little bit and just pull that out a hair. In fact, let's go as low as possible. Maybe that's a little too big. Set the radius down to 55. And I can pull this out, and then that should be pulled out without intersecting. There we go, not too bad. I mean, you could do some more modeling and whatnot, get wrinkles and whatnot. But there we go. Now we get some layered blankets a little bit. Of course, this is all treated like raw material. We could even grab this cloth. Its axis is rotated to a weird angle, so why don't we scale that out? But maybe I can scale that cloth in so it punches up a little bit more. And I can pull it a little bit forward. Turn off axis mode, now pull a little forward. So, there we go. It's kind of folding over. It's giving a good illusion of what the other thing was doing. So anyway, this entire point was just to get this and these two blankets. Now we can copy and paste those, go back to the bed. We don't need this anymore, but we can hit paste, and there we go. We got some blankets. So now we got this nice fancy bed. We can make a null object. Go to the side. This bed was already made right on the floor, but if you haven't, do that same trick again. Select everything, deselect your null, drop it in, call it bed, and save it again because it's already called bed. So there we go, bed, fancy bed. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so what's left? I think just the room. So because the scale is going to be important. So why don't we start collecting all these objects into one scene. So I'm going to take the bed and go to new file and paste it. Oop, wrong button. Paste it. So there's the bed. Now I'm going to go and grab the dresser, collapse that, grab that, open the new file, close the new file, and now we're in the newest new file. Paste, and there's our dresser. Looks like they're actually pretty good scale to each other. Maybe not perfect, but now we can go to the nightstand. Actually, the nightstand and the lamp are together in this. Oh, I thought they were, but we can copy the lamp, go to the nightstand file, paste that. Now we got both of these. In fact, why don't we just make the nightstand a child, or the lamp a child nightstand? Now we can copy the nightstand, go back to the master file, paste this, and then we can move this over. And we're going to start looking at the overall files in a second here. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's look at what we're supposed to be seeing. Okay, so obviously these are supposed to be a lot tinier So the bed is got to be bigger, or these have to be smaller. Either way, let's do the bed bigger. So we're going to scale the bed up. They're supposed to be coming up to about the height of the bed, so we don't have to be perfect with that. Once again, that's just being used for inspiration. Or maybe just the heights are screwed up. Maybe the feet on the bed are supposed to be taller. Oh yeah, the feet on the bed are really tall. You want to be careful with that kind of thing. So, so we can probably scale the bed up a little bit, but we want to just move the bed up. And now we're going to give it longer legs. And I guess that means the blanket could have been longer, but oh well. Time limits. So we move these legs down. Actually, let's go to our side view because these should be pretty much right on the ground. And here's something that's cool. We can make this editable. Actually, not that editable. Let's go inside the cloner, and then we'll make this cube editable. And now that means we can go to our points, and I'm going to turn off selection. I can grab these top points. And now you see that's already sitting on the ground, so all I have to do is pull these legs taller. Actually, I want to go right up to there. Legs are taller. They pass through, and there we go. Done. The fastest way to do that. All right, so now we got the bed pretty much to scale. This dresser is looking pretty good. Collapse that. We got this nightstand. I'm going to go ahead and make an instance of the nightstand now that we're in this room. So it keeps the scale. We can move this over to this side. So we got 2 lamps and 2 nightstands. And we got the dresser. Rotate the dresser 90 degrees. And let's look at our photo reference again. So, yeah, it's looking pretty good. We can go to our top view here. Maybe scoot this over. And now nightstands obviously got to be pulled back a little bit more. Centered. Actually, move it over there. Grab this one, pull it over here. Yeah, look at that. Let's save this, and we'll just call it bedroom. And let's whip this actual geometry of the bedroom out as fast as possible. So, as if the rest of this has been slow. Whew, okay, how do we do this? Why don't we just do it with a rectangle, and we'll flatten that out, and I don't know how big the bedroom is, but let's make it nice and big so that we have lots to work with. So I'm going to, I don't know, let's say 2,000. 2,000 seems probably a little big for a bedroom. Let's do 1515 square, and then we can pull this. Actually, I like that being centered. Let's leave that centered, and we'll make all the merchandise more into the corner. So the bedroom should be nice and big so that Nick could move the camera all around, but we still get our 4 walls. So there we go. We got that. In fact, we probably want to move these a little, or rather the nightstands and the bed, which should be all kind of together in a cluster, and that can be moved a little way and closer to the wall here. And that'll give us room to put this chimney in. So let's see, the chimney, we'll do that by, actually, we'll take this rectangle, copy and paste it, and we'll make an extrude, drop this in the extrude, and now we can just move this into the corner and grab this rectangle and scale it down. And we'll extrude upward. I have no idea how tall rooms are supposed to be, so we're just going to go beyond what it would be needed for sure. So there, we're shooting that way up, and that will be this little chimney thing. That looks a little big, so we can shrink it down. And I'm just going to make sure, because we're going fast, we're going to make sure this is kind of intersecting a little bit there. And now we could copy, we're going to want to do that. I want to make those walls separately, actually. We'll just do it and make it editable. Let's see. I'm going to copy and paste that extrude, delete that rectangle out, and we're going to drop this one in. And we'll call this bricks so we know what it is. And we couple this one walls. And my caps is on. But anyway, we don't want these caps. So I'm going to turn off the caps, and now we can kind of see through the room. And these are our walls. So I'm going to go ahead and see, I'm going to keep this rectangle. We'll just call that base. But we're going to make these walls editable. And I'm actually going to grab these 2 back walls, hit UP, delete. So we can call this front walls, and call these back walls. And then, yeah, we'll do that. So that's the front and back. So now we can actually hide these front walls so we can actually see through the room while we're working on it. Very good, very good. All right. What do we got? All right, well, we're going to have a really... Actually, these are painted different colors, too, so Nick's probably going to want to separate these anyway. But anyway, we need a nice big window. Why don't we just do that with a bool? So we're going to make a bool. I'm going to save. It's always good to save when you're about to do stuff with bools. I'm going to rename this back wall, the bool back walls. So there we go. Now I can add the cube in here. I can drag the cube over. And let's go to top view. And let's see, this window is, well, it looks like it's actually a little bigger than this cabinet. So let's move this to about what the center point of the window would be. We want the Z to stretch out a little bit. Where does it start? It starts, I don't know, right about there, I guess. And let's, like round numbers, so we'll do that. And let's see, this should be actually A subtract B, so we got to rearrange this. There, boom, hole in the wall. So this will be the hole in the wall to be the windows. The window is pretty dang tall. This is a tall bedroom. I want this bedroom. So let's make this 400. Maybe. I'm not sure. Let's say 400. There we go. Nice big. That'll be the hole in the window. We'll fill that in a second. Let's see. What else do we want? Well, we want a floor. I'm going to just create a floor object. We don't need all the subdivisions, so I'll drop those down. I'm going to hit T for scale, and we'll scale it up until we're big enough for the room. That could even overlap a little. I mean, if you're seeing from the outside, you want to be accurate, but we don't need to be. Let's see. There's also a carpet. We can just make the carpet a cube. It's going to be textured and put underfoot, so we can make it really thin. In fact, I'm not even going to care that this is passing through the floor a little bit. And let's see, 500, 500? Nope, 500, not 5,000. Let's see, how big is it? That's obviously way bigger than that. So let's make it bigger, bigger, maybe even bigger. Yeah, let's get in there. Bigger, bigger, big rug. There we go. And now this is kind of offset a little bit. I can even pull it down here. And I guess the easiest way here to fake this would be grab the bed and just pull it up a hair so the feet are on top. Those back ones won't quite be touching, but I don't think we'll see it at that angle. Or you can tilt it back. I mean, they are on the rug in theory. That would be a slightly uneven. So you could, tilt the bed back that one little notch if need be. Okay, so we got this window, and we need to figure it out. So let's see what this cube is. I'm going to make this 450 so it's a nice round number so that I can make a spline that will be identical to it. I'm going to actually put this inside the window cube, zero that out, and we can match this. And what is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be, I think, 600 tab 450, and that should be matching exactly. It's a little further back, but that's fine. That's because the cube is not necessarily center. I'm going to name this window, and we can even name that win, save that. And let's see, what are we doing here? Well, there's some thickness to it. And then there's just a whiteness of the windows. And then those window frames can be complicated, but we want to do the fastest version possible. I have no idea how long we've been going, but hopefully you guys are entertained. Well, learning, I guess, is more important than being entertained. So we got this extrude. I'm going to extrude the proper direction, which I don't know what it is. There we go. Caps, no caps, no caps. There we go. Now I got a little bit of thickness to this extrude. Now we can grab this window and pull it back. We're going to be using this spline a couple times, actually. Actually, no, it's a hard edge. I was going to put some trim on it, but it doesn't look like it does have trim. Interesting. So I guess we just want to make sure this is as close as possible. Normal, I guess you'd want to do an extrude. Extrude. Heck, we'll just leave it there. Don't want to take too long. All right, so what else do we want? Well, we need to make this window. And it's hard to tell here, but it looks like this would be one panel, and there'd be another panel of equal size, and then two more above it. So we'll just assume that. So we're going to take this window, copy, paste it, and we need it to be exactly half the height and exactly half the width. So there we go. We got this little section here. And what are we going to do with it? Well, that gives us the size of the window. Let's see. 4 equal parts. Let's see. What am I going to do? I'm going to make this editable. I'm going to grab this front polygon, invert UI, delete. Now all I have is this essentially flat polygon. And now I'm going to hit the layer. Actually, let's subdivide. I'm going to right click and say pop out, subdivide, boom, one subdivide. Now we got our 4 sections. Hit the letter I, turn off preserve groups. Do a little inner extrude. Those are pretty thin. Actually, it looks like there's supposed to be a little perimeter, so I'm going to hit preserve first, same as with our cabinet. Now we're going to do a second one. And the second one won't be preserved. And now we can make that maybe not so thick, so nice and thin. And then we can just hit delete. finish that, and then hit delete and get rid of those. So there's our basic window. I can select all of that. And let's see, I'm really having trouble seeing the kind of detail in there, so let's not stress it too much. I'm going to hit the letter D for extrude, and we're going to pull this forward a little bit. And we don't see the back of the window, so we don't have to worry too much about caps. Let's hit U. I'm going to hit UL for ring selection, or loop selection. I'm going to grab this outer loop, and we're going to do a second extrude on that one, so that now you see we're kind of getting the nice little kind of layered window detail on that. And there we go. That is going to be our window frame anyway. In fact, let's make a, I should have kept the basic of, or a copy of that, but I'm going to make another cube, and I'm going to drop it on this window, and I'm going to zero it out, and let's scale this to match the window, because we need some glass. We can make that super thin, but let's make sure it's big enough to fit the glass. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be overlapping. And the thickness of the glass should be nice and thin. I'm not sure what the numbers are in this. Obviously, my scene file is not to any kind of scale. But I can pull this in a little bit. There we go. Now we got our pane of glass. We can even rename that glass. And that looks good. I'm just going to make that transparent for now. Nick will swap out the materials later. Boom, glass. All right, I like it. I like it. I like it. So, why don't we just throw this in the cloner? Because why not? This cloner should be right where this window is. Drop in there, zero it out, so it's centered. And we know that this is supposed to be a grid with 2 heights and is it 2 widths and only 1 count. And now we should be able to scale this until these match the windows. The math was added up, so these should perfectly fit right in there. Render. Oh, looks good to me. Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. In fact, I mean, there's always more details you can do. Like we got this nice little window spline, so we could copy and paste that, and then we can run, say, a sweep through it, and we can even do just a basic square. Why is it being? Oh, the angles. The orientation rather. So we got this, so we could. I can pull this forward. Oh, what is going on? Oh, it's still the wrong angle. My bad. There we go. Too big. Let me turn on these polygons. So we can scale this down and see we could have a little bit of thickness but just based on this. Just to give a little extra layer of window detail. If we grab this bottom one, we can scoot it in a little bit more. Oop, why am I not moving? Bottom one. Grab the bottom one, we can move it over and out and whatnot. Give that little extra kind of lip of detail. And actually, now we've done that, we can grab this window and scale the entire cloner down so they all kind of fit in there properly. I think that's good. Nick will have the window, the light coming in nice and bright. So there we go. Nice window over there. Let's see. What's left? Well, we got the shelf and the plant. Let's see, I'm going to save. And, okay, shelf obviously could be easier. We're just going to go ahead and drag this in. Drag that out. Let's see, it's a little bigger than the bed. I'm just going to go ahead and pass that through the wall. Boom, wonderful shelf. We didn't really put any bevels in here, which I kind of wish we did because bevels always look nice. We can add some tiny ones to this one. I'm going to delete the font tag. So there's shelf. I'm also going to add the white to it because it's supposed to be white, as I think is our backboard. So, yeah, there we go. That's that. Picture frame. That's in another file, frame. So we can grab that frame. We can go over here back into the bedroom, paste. That's a big picture frame. But because we put in null, and it's always such a good idea to put stuff in those nulls, we can put this exactly where it's supposed to go on the frame. Go to the side view, and let's pull it back until it's sitting on the shelf. And then we can just hit letter T for scale and scale that sucker down. So there we go. Now it's scaled down. I can pull a little back on the shelf, even rotate it backwards so it looks like it's leaning. Scoot it back that a little bit more. There we go. There, now we got a little picture frame sitting on the picture. In fact, we could copy and paste that and scoot it over and scale it down. And now it can have a little buddy sitting there too. I think both of these are floating a little bit. Pull them down. Sweet. And then all we have left is our plant. Grab the plant. It's already zeroed out and everything, so we can go to the bedroom. Paste. That's a big plant. We probably do a little cleanup on this if we wanted to. Actually, let's do that real quick because those are bugging me. I can hit undo, go back to the plant file. And you see we do have a couple stray leaves here, so we can go back to the hair, which actually be the leaves, and we can go to polygon mode and kind of just grab any little offending polygons here. And if I hit UW, it'll grab all those polygons, and I can hit delete, and then it just entirely deletes those. So just grab these, any part of any offending one, and it's super easy to go UW delete. Now, technically, this good note is there's some stray polygons here that are points that aren't being used. You can select all the points, right-click, and say optimize, and boom, all the bad points go away, or unneeded points anyway. So there we go. Now we got a nice, big, fluffy, messy plant. Hopefully it lights up nice. Back to the bedroom, paste, huge plant, scale it down. We'll go to the top view and kind of place it right on the desk where you want. And we go to a side view and move it up right where it should be sitting. Seems pretty good. And then we can just scale until it's the size we like. Maybe rotate it a little bit. There we go. Save. Let's look at our final image. Now, we didn't make a lot of these other knickknacks, but I don't think we're going to worry about those details. This has actually turned out pretty well for how quick we're doing it. I would love to do a lot more detail with like wrinkles and whatnot, but you could spend as much time as we've done all of this on one pillow to be adding more of the detail, and we're not going to worry about that. I think these windows could be offset from each other a little bit, but I think maybe we'll just leave it. I'm also going to pull these in. Yeah, pull them in a little bit so we get the thickness of the edges. That looks a little better. Those can be intersecting in the center. I guess this dresser can be pulled back a little along with the plant, so I'm going to grab both of those. Start collapsing all these things. We should make sure we're all named. We're named up pretty well, so I'm going to grab the plant, and I'm going to grab the dresser. Let's pull these back a hair. And let's clean up this room naming stuff. So, frame. Actually, this is shelf. So those frames and shelves would be together, and the plant can be down here with the dresser. And let's see, we got all this stuff involved in the room though. So, window, rug. I'm gonna grab these and hit Alt-G and group them and name them window. And we've got the base, which we can still do a baseboard. Do they have a baseboard here? Can't even see it. Oh, there it is back there. I guess we can do baseboard real quick. But I'll still keep naming these. So we got the window and the walls and the back walls and the ground. Just grab that like that. And I'm going to Alt-G that, group it, and name it room. So those are all the room parts. So we've got the base, and the base can give us the trim as well. So I'm not sure what kind of trim that is, but you know what? Trim is usually pretty generic. So why don't we go to a side view? And I always screw this up, but let's go to, let's just draw some trim. In fact, let's freehand it. So we'll go out, in, out, in, out, down, over. Trim. Beautiful, beautiful trim. So this will be our baseboard. In fact, I'm going to grab all these and hit T for scale and scale those details down a little bit. Actually grow it and scale it down a little bit. Now that flatter part will be longer. In fact, I want that flat part to be quite flat, so I'm going to grab those 2 points and hit scale and scale it down to 0. That should be pretty... Oop, I didn't grab all the points. Scale that down until it says 0, and that should be totally flat now. There we go. So now we can take that, and we get this base, and paste that up at the top. And now we can go to sweep and put this in first, put the base in under it, and it should be sweeping that around. Of course, I did it backwards, because I always do. So we can select this entire trim, and I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, so it's actually on the inside. And you got to make sure it's kind of to the off from the axis. So let's see where the axis point is of it. See, the axis is here, but it's facing out. So we actually have to move it over. The axis is right in the center, actually. So we move this so that these are right at where the center would be. This could move in a little bit, too. So there we go. Now we can take the trim and shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it. And then we take the base and move it up to do the offset. Let's see what we got. That is some baseboard. Maybe shrink it down a little more. Baseboard, baseboard. Move down. Trim. And I call that trim. Boom. Let's see. Let's just make a... just to see what we got here. I'm going to save this and... Oh, let's name that. Trim, shelf, rug, bricks, nightstands. Okay, everything's organized and clean and well named. So now we could, just for the sake of seeing what we got here, I'm going to make a null object, put everybody inside. We'll name that room, and we'll make a... Well, we'll just do a white render. Why not? One of those cheesy old white renders. We'll pull a fully luminous material on there. Actually, we'll just put an ambient inclusion right in the material. And let's see, there's other materials that are going to override it. So just real quick, so we can see what it looks like. I'm going to right click on this material. I'm going to say select identical child tags, not select mine, and then hit Command X, or actually just delete, and that'll delete all the materials that were down there except for the main one. So now we can maybe zoom up a little bit. Actually, let's look at the room one more time. Yeah, this stuff should be right in the corner. So why don't we do that? Why not? We can't, because then we're gonna lose the work we just did. There, I hit undo, and now the materials are back. Now, sorry, we will grab the no, not the dresser, the bed, the nightstand, the shelf, the frame, and now we can scoot all that over so the nightstand is right on the wall. I'm going to grab, actually, the nightstand, and we're going to drag these back so they're back against the wall. And we're going to maybe grab the bed a little closer to the nightstand. Outer nightstand a little closer to the bed. There we go. Now we can do that trick again. So I'm going to zoom up on this a little bit, save it, and now I can right-click on this material, select identical child tags, deselect that tag, hit delete, and now all we have is that one material applied to everything in that null. Render. Well, that's pretty bright. Let's make it not 100% luminous. There we go. Maybe one light. Wow. Shadow render, but there's no regular light. There we go. I think this is what we're going to pass off to Nick. Actually, maybe there'll be a little, I'll do another little mini tutorial on kind of prepping some materials for the way Nick is going to lay this out, because this one's already probably too long. So there we go. I'm going to bid you adieu. All right, see you guys in the next one. Bye.